Midnight, a country asleep, but instead of silence, the skies above Russia buzzed with a sound that has become the new heartbeat of modern war. Not jet engines, not artillery shells, but the relentless hum of drones. 95 of them. 95 Ukrainian drones tearing across the border in one of the most audacious strikes of the war to date. And the timing couldn't have been sharper. This was no ordinary day. It was August 24th, Ukraine's Independence Day, a day when Kyiv celebrates freedom from Soviet rule, a day of parades, of flags, of remembrance. And while Ukrainians waved blue and yellow in the streets, Russia looked up to see flames and smoke. Ukraine had chosen the moment with surgical precision, a symbolic holiday transformed into a battlefield statement. Russia's Ministry of Defense rushed out a familiar line: "We intercepted the drones." But reality doesn't bend so easily. Fires burned, transformers failed, airports went silent, and the world saw exactly what had happened. The message was undeniable. Ukraine could reach deeper into Russia than ever before. The most terrifying chapter of the night unfolded in Kursk. This wasn't some empty oil depot or forgotten outpost. This was one of Russia's nuclear power plants. A drone detonated near the site, hitting a transformer and sparking a fire that forced reactor number 3 to slash its power output by half. Officials were quick to reassure the public. No radiation, no casualties. But in those early hours, uncertainty gripped everyone. Nuclear plants aren't supposed to be part of war, yet here was a drone strike forcing an atomic facility into partial shutdown. The International Atomic Energy Agency, already busy monitoring Zaporizhzhia inside Ukraine, quickly issued a warning. Their director made it clear, nuclear power facilities should never be military targets. But reality doesn't care much for guidelines. Kursk had already shown the vulnerability. With one drone, Ukraine had proven that reactors were not invincible fortresses, but fragile nodes in Russia's energy web. And just the thought of what could have happened was enough to send chills through Moscow and every neighboring capital. Further north, another inferno erupted. Along the frozen Gulf of Finland lies the Ust-Luga fuel terminal, a sprawling hub that pumps out jet fuel and naphtha to Asia and Istanbul. It's not just infrastructure, it's one of the Kremlin's financial arteries. When drones struck the site, debris triggered a firestorm. Flames lit up the sky, casting an orange glow that could be seen from miles away. Thick black smoke billowed upward, the kind of plume that says something important is burning. Governor Alexander Drozdenko rushed to calm nerves. No one had died, no one was injured. But in Russia, where fuel exports mean money, and money means war, the damage was deeper than any press release could cover. Each barrel of fuel lost is rubles denied to Moscow's military machine, and Ukraine knew it. Kursk was a warning about nuclear safety. Ust-Luga was a strike at Russia's wallet. Together, they formed a 1-2 punch that left Moscow rattled. But the story didn't stop there. In Syzran, another drone tore into an industrial facility, injuring a child. Meanwhile, civilian life across Russia was disrupted. At Pulkovo, St. Petersburg's main airport, flights were grounded, travelers stranded. Sirens wailed across multiple regions. Imagine the scene. Commuters stuck, children pulled from beds, and air defense crews firing blindly into the night sky. It wasn't just about what the drones hit. It was about what they disrupted, the normalcy of Russian life. And that's the brilliance of Ukraine's drone strategy. Missiles are expensive, fighter jets are rare. But drones are the great equalizer. They're cheap, mobile, and terrifyingly effective. For every drone Ukraine launches, Russia spends exponentially more to shoot it down. A missile defense system can cost millions. A drone might cost thousands. It's like forcing your opponent to swat flies with gold-plated baseball bats. Financially, it's unsustainable. Psychologically, it's exhausting. And Ukraine has been refining this strategy for years. Just 2 months earlier came Operation Spiderweb. Kyiv smuggled 117 drones into Russia using trucks, then launched them at strategic bomber bases. Reports suggest at least 10 Russian bombers destroyed, 20 more damaged, entire runways cratered. Think about that for a moment. Those bombers weren't just planes. They were platforms for long-range strikes into Ukraine. And suddenly, they were piles of smoldering metal. One Western analyst called it a spy thriller. Except this wasn't fiction. It was real, filmed in smoke and satellite images. Drone warfare also strikes at something deeper: paranoia. Russian soldiers, officials, and civilians alike live under the constant hum of uncertainty. Every buzz overhead might be harmless, or it might be another Kursk, another Ust-Luga. This psychological pressure forces Moscow to defend everywhere, stretching resources thin. In war, fear is as much a weapon as firepower. But Kursk introduces an even darker question. What if next time the dice fall differently? Nuclear facilities are not like fuel depots. You can put out an oil fire, you can rebuild a refinery, but one accident, one chain reaction at a nuclear site, and the consequences are unthinkable. The IAEA knows it, Moscow knows it, and Kiev knows it too, which is why these strikes carry such weight. They're not just tactical, they're strategic messages, written in fire. And then there's the symbolism. Ukraine didn't pick August 24th by accident. It was their Independence Day. 34 years since breaking free from Moscow's grasp, Kiev used the occasion to remind Russia that it still stands, still fights, still has claws. The strikes weren't just attacks. They were fireworks of defiance, painted in smoke trails and orange flames across the Russian horizon. Now, here's where irony sneaks in. Russia spends billions on hypersonic missiles, nuclear submarines, and advanced radars. They love to boast about being impregnable. Yet, on the night of Ukraine's Independence Day, they were rattled by drones, some of which could be mistaken for hobby shop projects with explosives taped on. It's like owning a Lamborghini and getting smoked by a kid on a scooter. Embarrassing? Absolutely. Symbolic? Even more so. As dawn broke over Russia, the fires were slowly contained, airports reopened, and reactors powered back up. But the memory of that night won't fade quickly. 95 drones didn't win the war, but they made a statement that no one could ignore. They proved Ukraine's ingenuity, they exposed Russia's vulnerabilities, and they reminded the world that modern conflict is no longer just fought with tanks and trenches. It's fought with energy grids, nuclear facilities, and swarms of flying machines built for a fraction of the cost of what they destroy. And that's the future of war. It isn't endless lines of soldiers marching shoulder to shoulder like in old war films. It isn't armored divisions thundering across open plains in a dramatic charge. The future is quieter, smaller, and far more unnerving. It hums above your head at midnight, it hides in the clouds, and it costs less than the truck you drive to work. Instead of mass armies, we now face mass swarms, buzzing, cheap, disposable, and devastating. For the cost of a single modern fighter jet, a nation can build hundreds, even thousands of drones. Drones that can strike air bases, fuel depots, or nuclear reactors. Drones that can be launched from a field, a rooftop, or even hidden in a delivery truck. This is a shift so fundamental that even the world's great powers are scrambling to adapt. The United States, China, NATO, Russia, they've all poured billions into aircraft carriers, stealth jets, nuclear submarines. Yet in 2025, it wasn't a billion-dollar bomber that lit up Russia's sky. It was a fleet of flying machines that cost a fraction of the price. The battlefield economics are brutally one-sided. A Ukrainian drone might cost $10,000. The Russian missile that shoots it down might cost $1 million. Multiply that imbalance by 95 drones in a single night, and you begin to see the real power of this new warfare. And Kursk and Ust-Luga, those weren't just isolated incidents. They were warnings. Warnings that the battlefront now stretches into places once considered untouchable. Nuclear power plants, energy corridors, and fuel terminals are no longer safe. Airports, refineries, even cities far behind the front lines are now part of the war zone. Geography, once Russia's strongest shield, is being pierced again and again by swarms that slip through cracks in its defenses. But these warnings are not for Russia alone. Every nation that relies on sprawling energy grids, every country that keeps its economy running on pipelines and power stations should be paying attention. Because if Ukraine can demonstrate this reach with limited resources, imagine what a state with a vast drone fleets could do. So, the next time you hear a faint buzzing in the night sky, don't assume it's a mosquito. It may be the sound of a new kind of weapon, a weapon that slips past radar, that carries explosives small but precise.